Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It's Monday, July 28th, a little after 7 o'clock p.m. And this will be our daily coverage video for the two YieldMax weekly paying funds, ULTY, the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund, and LFGY, YieldMax's Crypto Industry and Tech Portfolio Option Income ETF. Reminder, I'm on X at ETF_Inspector1. I post when videos are coming out. And for Roundhill videos, I post their daily trades for their 0 DTE funds. And then I also post my thank yous as well. So I do want to start with the thank yous before we get into the coverage. We had two, one from Alex Nkedia. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. $25. Thank you very much. And RP Giles, I think I saw your name, Ryan, over on X when you followed me there as well. So thank you both very much. And then also Mr. Darren Wilson. This is now the third time in like 2 weeks. So thank you very much. He gave a super thanks, $5. Darren Winslow. I'm not sure what I said your last name was. I got that wrong. But Darren Winslow, thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and start taking a look at how things went. ULTY ended up flat for the day. Started out positive, dropped down into the negative, ended up flat for the day. Funds were mixed. You got a good mixture of red and green on the screen. Had a big mover, right? SMCI. Then we scrolled down. We got to get past our monthly funds and then get down into LFGY. It was down 3 cents, nothing major. Added a couple new stocks to the fund. If you noticed that on the thumbnail, Bitmine Immersion Technologies, as well as iShares Ethereum Trust ETF. All right, but we don't need to worry too much about this screen. This is just kind of showing you the mixture. We go ahead after 5:30, download the intraday trades, scroll down, get to ULTY first, right? Starts on line 83 and goes down to 157, so not a bad day. 74 trades to do on that one. And then LFGY starts on line 159 and goes to 217. So what's that, 58 trades? But this isn't really great to look at, and also doesn't give us a whole lot of extra information. It's just the amount of shares or contracts and the price paid. So we take those, put them in our spreadsheet, crunch a bunch of numbers, and come up with something like this. So this is our trade page. We're starting with ULTY underdogs. That's everybody's favorite lately. So didn't buy into more of every single stock within the fund, but the vast majority, right? Roughly, looks like $5-ish million was the average spent on each. There was a sale of SMCI, not completely, just I think this is more of a balancing thing since they were up so big. So sold $20 million of them, but we had, let's take a look real quick, $102 million before the 10% increase. So we're going to have over $110 million worth before we sold roughly $20 million worth. So that was the only sale, and it wasn't a complete. We didn't get out of it. We just took a little off the top. Then we go through. If you notice the orange, I've talked about it in the explanation video, but those are when we're doing rolls. So we're closing out and starting a new position. So AAOI is the first one. Brought in a credit of $435,000 on today's trades. Closed out these, I believe it's 28s. Yep. Closed out the 28s and sold 27s. And then you're going to see a whole lot where it's just a short sale short, and purchase of a put. That's because with all these purchases of more shares, we're going to start our new collar strategy on them as well. So the combination between the closeout and roll and the selling of the new resulted in that credit, $435,000. They did not adjust their put. When they closed out their 28s and sold 27s, they did not move their put. Okay, so it stayed protecting where it was, and then they just bought more puts to go with the new shares. AppLovin, just like we just talked about, we're not closing anything out here. It was just selling new options to go with the new shares and buying puts as well. $60,000 credit. AST Space Mobile. So all they did was close out the short call and moved it closer to the money, selling it, buying it at 59, selling it at 57, resulted in a $623,000 credit. Coinbase, this is not. This is just selling new options to go with the new shares, and then they just adjusted their put. They sold their 35s and adjusted them to 34s. So that resulted in a $267,000 credit. I'm going to take a quick pause just to talk about, we learned a lot from Retire on Dividends Sunday video where he had Mr. Scott Snyder on there. He is he's the man over there at YieldMax. His baby is Misty, but he talks about it. He's got a hand in everything. There's a great hour-long interview in here, and he gave us some useful information to help us understand when and why they adjust their trades, their positions. Right, talking about if the stock goes up beyond their sold call, what determines when they're going to close it out, and then a lot of it. Some of it didn't really apply to ULTY because it talked about when they end up having the long call and it's got enough value to pay the difference on the extrinsic value on the short call. But ULTY doesn't trade that way, but it will apply for LFGY. There was another really useful piece of information. They said they use the IV of each individual option, not just the stocks themselves. So that may be why we've been seeing them pay slightly higher than what our IV estimate was, because there's higher IVs in the options. Okay, so back to what we were talking about. We finished up on coin with that credit. So now we've got a nice run here. First Solar, Galaxy, IonQ, Mara Holdings, MicroStrategy, Nebius, Reddit, and Rigetti, where it is all just selling new calls to go with the new shares and buying new puts to protect them, resulting in credits of just about 75,000, 57,000, 51,000, 55,000, 35,000, 54,000, 175,000, and $58,000 respectively. Not a whole lot of rolls today, just a couple. SMCI, right? We talked about it. They went up over 10%, so that's going to end up resulting in one. So they closed out their 55s for this Friday. They sold 60s for a portion of them, and they didn't sell the other portion, right? So there was a 3,500 contract and a 3,554 contracts, and they only ended up selling the 3,500. So they're going to wait and see on the rest. All right, so that resulted in a debit or loss of $1.5 million. We've got 3 more of selling new calls and buying puts to go with the new shares. New Scale Power, Snap, I can't remember what Snap is, and Tempest AI. Snap's new from last week. $65,000, $109,000, and $67,000 credits on those. Tesla, they had to close out their 315s and adjust them up to 335s. That resulted in a $1 million loss or debit. Upstart, closing out their 88s and adjusting them down to 85s, then selling some more to go with new shares, resulted in a $466,000 credit. Vertiv Holding is just selling new calls and buying new puts to go with the new shares. That's a $60,000 credit. And Vistra Corp closed out their 202.50s and sold them at 200, still staying within the same week. Then also selling new calls and buying new puts to go with the new shares. $503,000 credit. So all of this resulted in a $576,000 credit on the day. So not bad when you took 2 hits of stocks running through their strike that cost over $1 million each to roll, and we still ended up in the positive for the trading day. As you can see, we were increased in value by over $10 million in our holdings, so we'll take a look and see how that happened. If you missed the Sunday video, it seems to be everybody's favorite. It's I definitely get I get more views on that one than anything. We talk about the changes in the IVs of the underlyings. We talk about the weightings. ULTY is fairly evenly allocated as compared to LFGY, that is kind of not so much. So AAOI is the big loser for today. That's why it's got the red on its change, down over 7%. They closed out these 28s and rolled them to a closer strike. They still have 29s sold till next week that are almost 15% out of the money. AppLovin up 1.8%. 375s for this week are still 1% out of the money, and they've got 400s for next week that are 7.8% out of the money. AST Space Mobile down 0.2%. They went ahead and closed and rolled those 59s. So we already talked about what the new strike was, but the holdings up download doesn't become available until tomorrow morning, so that's when everything on this left side of the screen gets adjusted. Coinbase down 3.11%. They've got strikes at 405, 410, and 415 that are 6.78% and 9.3% out of the money. First Solar down 0.94%. 192.50s are 4.8% out of the money, and 195s are 6.2% out of the money. Galaxy Digital down 3.24%. 29.60 was the closing. They've got 34s and 35s sold for this Friday that are 14.8 and 18% out of the money. So they're probably getting pretty cheap to close. So these closing prices were realistically closed on Friday because, like I said, the holdings don't come out until the following morning. Robinhood up 1.8%. These 107s are still just barely out of the money by 0.22%, and they've got 113s that are 5.8% out of the money. Innodata up 0.5%. 50s and 55s are sold out till 2 weeks. Not this Friday, not next Friday, the Friday after that. So almost 3 weeks. 1.1 and 11.2% out of the money. IonQ was down today 1.9%. They've got 45 50s that are almost 7.5% out of the money. And then they've got 47s for next Friday that are about 11% out of the money. Mara Holdings down 0.5%. 1850s and 19s are sold for this coming Friday. Almost twice as many at 19. 7.8 and 10.7% out of the money. MicroStrategy down 0.5%. 420s and 422.50s are the strike prices sold for this Friday. They're 4 and 4.6% out of the money. Nebius Group up almost 7%. 53.50s and 54.50s for this week. About 3 times as many at the 54.50. 1.4 and 3.3% out of the money. Oklo, right, we started in the money this week. Luckily, it was roughly flat, 0.04%. It went up about 3 cents, and it really depends on which closing you look at, because I think I saw a couple cents difference on this. Yeah, see, I saw 75.50 as zero change, so I'm not sure which one, whether it's the Stocks app on an Apple device or the whatever uploads through Excel, which one's right. But it either ended up 3 cents or flat on the day, so we'll get nice time decay on those Oklo calls. They're 2% and 0.7% in the money. Palantir down a little over 0.5%. 162.50s for this week are 2.9% out of the money. And then the 160s and again 162.50s for next Friday are 1.3 and 2.9% out of the money. Reddit up 1.27%. We've got calls at 150 or 155, 160, and 165, all for this Friday. 2.2, 5.5, and 8.8% out of the money. Rigetti up 0.8%, still almost 6% out of the money with this week's 1650s. SMCI, Supermicrocomputer Inc., the big winner today, up over 10%. So here's what we like to point out. So yes, when they run up too fast, they end up costing a lot of money to close out. We spent $1.5 million closing and rolling those strikes. Still went for the same week, so still trying to scratch and claw and make some premium. But take a look at the amount that it increased the value of our fund, $10.5 million. So we will gladly spend $1.5 million to increase $10.5 million. So those 55s don't exist anymore for this week, but we still have 55s for next week that are sold. They're 8.4% in the money currently. We actually have the puts protecting those are spread out between 44s and 45s, but then we have a purchased call. We have $65 strike purchased calls. They're still 8.2% out of the money. They are expiring next week, but you can guarantee that they increased in value. Let's see if that was part of, did they sell those calls? They did. They sold those calls. Okay. So they brought in $959,000 selling those. So I did miss that. Oh, clicking the wrong one. So that worked out, right? I talked about it last week and over the weekend. Hey, this is kind of odd. They must have seen it coming. They must have, I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. I took a vacation day and went to the beach with my family today. But maybe today was earnings report or something, and that's why. I'm not sure. But they had a feeling and they got it right. So good job on that one to the YieldMax title trading team. New Scale Power down 1.2%. They've got 54s expiring this week, 5.8% out of the money, and 56s expiring next week, 9.7% out of the money. Snap Inc. down 0.8%. All 50,000 contracts are for $10.50 next Friday. They're 8% out of the money. Tempest AI down 3.86%. They've got 68s sold for this Friday that are 9.6% out of the money. Tesla up over 3%. So we were playing these a little tight, and it went up. We had to roll them, close them out. But we still have 335s for this week that are 2.89% out of the money. And I believe when we rolled to the 335 as well. Sold 335. So we just moved everything that was in this 315 into the 335. Upstart was down about 1.5%. Their 87s expiring this week are 5.7% out of the money. They had 88s, which they rolled, closed them out, and rolled them to a closer strike to collect more premium. And then they've got 90s for next week that are 9.3% out of the money. Vertiv Holdings up 3 and almost 3/4%. That took the 136s 4.6% into the money, and the 142s 0.43% into the money. But unless I forgot to highlight it, right, Vertiv Holdings, they did not do a roll. So, we're talking about, yeah. Yep, so no action was taken on those options. Sorry about that. And then Vistra Corp up 1.93%. Not so sure. So they did talk about, right? So usually when something moves up and it's only a couple percent out of the money and you still have the rest of the week to go, they don't generally close these out and roll them. But they are always keeping an eye on if they ended up not being very much time premium built into those options, and it was just the intrinsic value, then they'll close it out and pick a strike that's got more, that's trading for more premium. So that might be the case of what happened there. They also have 200s and 210s for next week that are 2% and 7.1% out of the money. So all of these ups and downs resulted in a $10,481,000 increase in value for ULTY. All right, $2.2 billion as the assets under management. That doesn't include today's $10 million increase in value. It also does not include if there were any new outstanding shares, if any new purchases coming in, or if there was a net negative and we've got to take the shares down. So we will find that out with tomorrow morning's download. I did just forget to point out, in case you missed Sunday's video, I recommend you go back and check it out. But the guesstimate that we came up with after crunching the numbers was, I'm thinking 9.6 cents. I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to get a surprise to the upside, but I'm rather not get my hopes up. So that's what I came up with, 9.6 cents. Oops. All right, now we will move to LFGY. All right, LFGY made a lot of sales and purchases of the underlyings themselves. We did talk about they bought into BitMine Immersion Technologies and iShares Ethereum Trust ETF. They put about $7.7 million into that second one and $3.7 million into BitMine Immersion Technology. None of these other sales were a full sale, so we didn't get out of any of the stocks within the fund. Just kind of seems like a little bit of rebalancing, buying some, selling some. I don't know if you heard that. Something just happened to my dog. But he seems to be okay. He's coming down the steps. Okay. So we don't generally go through line by line like we do in the other ones because they make so many odd incremental trades. What I got when I looked through these for the most part is basically the buying to close goes along with if they sold shares, and then the selling short goes along with if they bought shares. The big one that stands out is the new stocks within the fund. BitMine Immersion Technologies brought in $270,000 selling calls on those. And let me see something. BitMine. So we bought them for $38 and we're selling $50 calls, collecting $279. So not bad. They must have. We'll have to take a look. We'll have their well, let's do it right now. They must have a lot of IV. 154.6 or 156.4%. No wonder. Okay, so that's why we bought them for $38 and sold calls for $50 and got such a decent premium. So that brought in $270,000. Like I said, pretty much all of these trades are just closing out options to go with the shares that were sold or selling new options to go with shares that were purchased. There was no roll done for full positions. We brought in almost $83,000 selling the new calls for the iShares Ethereum Trust ETF. Other than that, lots of little trades, nothing major. But it all resulted in a profit of $255,000 for the trading. That's a realized gain. Okay, LFGY. We take a look. They do not trade a collar strategy. They sell calls, and sometimes they will purchase calls to basically limit the amount they'd have to spend to close out the short calls in the event the stock runs up past them. All right, BitDeer was down 3.14 pi, right? 3.14%. They've got 16s and 1650s, 10 times as many at the 1650. Sold for this week, 12.8 and 16.3% out of the money. CleanSpark up 1.78%. We've got 1250s and 1350s, a whole lot more at 1250, 3.9% and 12.2% out of the money. Coinbase down 3.11%, right? We heard that already in ULTY. They have 420s for this Friday, 801 contracts, 10.6% out of the money. Core Scientific down a penny, 0.11%. They've got 14s and 1450s sold for this week. Again, the vast majority at the closer strike, 14, 1.8, and about 5.5% out of the money. Circle Internet Group, they were the big loser today, but it was 3.9%, 3.9%. Their 215s went to 15.9, almost 16% out of the money, but no action was taken. Let me double check that. Nope, no action taken. All they did was sold more at the same strike, 215. All right, obligation funds, they don't really move, right? Galaxy Digital down 3.24%. They've got 32s, 33s, and 34s all expiring this Friday. Kind of inconsequential contract amounts at 32 and 33 compared to the 34s with almost 1,300 contracts. They are 8.1, 11.5, and 14.8% out of the money. GameStop down 1.41%. They've got 24s, vast majority, and 2450s, 4.3 and 6.5% out of the money. Robinhood up 1.8%. They've got 117s and 120s. In this case, most are at the 120, 9.5 and 12.3% out of the money. Hut 8 Corp down 0.25%, 2150s and 2250s. I'm not sure why when they've got the two strikes, why they have such an enormous difference. I mean, it makes sense. I don't know. When it's closer, then you collected more premium for those. When it's further away, you're kind of giving yourself a better chance to win. But 5.7 and 10.6% out of the money. iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF, or IBIT, up 1.12%. We like that. There's no options to worry about, so this just increases our value. Increased us by nearly 200,000 in value. Mara Holdings down 0.5% today. They've got 1950s for Friday that are 13.6% out of the money. MBTX has two option spreads going. They've got a credit call spread where the 295s are sold. They're 5.5% out of the money after today's increase to 279.47. They also have a debit put spread with the purchase at 230. Those need to go. It needs to quickly move down or get beyond those between now and the end of the year for them to do well. They are currently 17.7% out of the money. Mercado Libre down 0.36%. They've got 2,450 as their strike price. That's usually like our contract amount. They've got 29 contracts. They're 4% out of the money. MicroStrategy down 0.5%. Strikes at 430 and 435, relatively even, 6.5 and 7.75% out of the money. NU Holdings down 0.86%. $13 strikes are 3% out of the money. Nvidia was the big winner over here today, and it's never good when your big winner's in the ones. 1.87%. It did take them in the money though, so they were playing them kind of close. But so like they said, right, when they roll that, the time they will roll that will be when the value of the long call is more than the extrinsic value left in the short call. That's when they'll use that to basically pay that off and sell a new one, collecting new time premium. So as of right now, that's not the case, so they did not take action. Let me once again double check myself. Do we see Nvidia? They bought to close just the 95 contracts that went along with selling some shares. Opera down 1.45%. They've got $20 calls that are sold out till the August 15th, so that's not this Friday or next Friday, but the one after that. They're 18% out of the money. They're already only 7 cents to close, so Not sure how long they're going to leave those sit. PayPal holdings, actually, they were 7 cents to close on Friday. Now another day has decayed away, and the stock price went down. So they've got to be pretty low. PayPal holdings up 0.3%. 79 is the strike price for this Friday, 1% out of the money. Riot Platforms down 0.2%. We've got 15s and 1550s, most at the 1550. They're 3.3 and 6.8% out of the money. And finally, Block down 0.25%. $82 strike price for this Friday is 1.8% out of the money. All right, so all of that combines for a loss of loss of value, decrease in value, $1.3 million. Okay, LFGY is still not quite over $200 million in assets under management yet, but we're getting close. 5,050,000 shares. This has been odd lately because generally these trade within a couple cents of each other, and like the NAV's not updated with today's decrease by $1.3 million, but let's just change this into a, I don't want to make it. Let's see. Okay. So the NAV went to like 38.81. So with it ending more like 38.92, I'm going to. That shouldn't change anything. I was thinking maybe we're going to see an increase in shares tomorrow, but that shouldn't change the NAV. So, not sure. Well, yeah, because then that would increase the assets under management. So I'm thinking we're going to see a increase in shares when we download the holdings tomorrow morning. But, all right, so quick recap. Trading wise for ULTY, they profited $576,000. Share value increase, they went up almost $5 million. And then LFGY also had a positive on their trading day, 255, almost 256,000. And don't get the numbers confused, right? LFGY is 1/10 the size of ULTY, actually 1/11. Share value decreased by $1.3 million. And the guesstimate that we came up with in Sunday's video, if you want all the details, but I said 46, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if we get the surprise to the upside. I don't think we're going to be below 46, though. All right, I got a dad joke of the day for you. So before I do, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the likes and comments and shares. I enjoy the conversations in the comment section. I kind of don't understand the people, hating on the funds, and like if you don't like it, then don't buy it and don't watch the videos. I'm not here trying to talk people into buying anything. I'm not saying it's great. I'm saying I have it. A lot of people obviously have it. There's 350 million outstanding shares of ULTY and 5 million outstanding shares of LFGY. So I'm just providing the information, the intraday information to help you make your decisions. So I'm really not looking to argue with people to tell them why the funds are so great. Just providing information. So anyway, dad joke of the day. What did Yoda say when he saw himself in 4K? HDMI? Sorry, I don't have a Yoda voice. All right. Catch you guys later. Have a good rest of your night and good luck trading tomorrow.